Technology together. I'm your host, or at least one of us. My name is Michael Woodson, and together my host, Amana. She's new to us, and welcome, Amana. Glad to see you. And you want to tell us a little bit about you before we go down there a little more further?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ama Owisua. I am an enthusiast of the just learning about many different industries. I'm super excited to be here today, and I'm excited to have just to learn from our guests, and I'm excited to be here support for you, Michael, as well. So
Well, I look forward to working with you, and thanks for joining me and your willingness to jump in. Two heads are better than one, they say, right?
that's what they say.
Excellent. All right. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge something, though, very important. We are where we are today because some incredible individuals believed in us and our vision. And when it was just an idea, and an idea years ago, and these two people so far have come to the table. So it's time we want to say a heartfelt thank you to them, to every for being our early supporters and donors. One is a one named Dan Barnett, Vice President of IBM, and another individual by the name of Dan Clark, an instructor at Montgomery College. Um, we really believe your belief in our mission to empower students to bridge the gap between the hospitality technology has made this journey possible. And we are deeply, deeply grateful to both of you. So thank you very much. And for those who are watching, listening, wherever you may be, welcome back. And if you're experienced, we have with us an excellent individual. I want to just get to him as well. But if you are an experienced leader in hospitality or technology, and you want to give back to your next generation of students, we want to just say to you, we invite you to join the team. Join us here on the Hospitality and Tech Show. Together we can create even greater opportunities, inspire the future of our industries. So, look forward to hopefully, getting something into our inbox. Contact us. So please contact us if you would like to be a part of this journey. And so tonight, we have a very, very special guest. A true leader in cybersecurity and hospitality and technology space, Mr. Joshua Bergen. Joshua has recently been named the Chief Executive Officer in CyberTek, located down in the Florida, middle of Florida. Um, Josh has been around for a long time, so his distinguished career that includes serving as president of the CyberTek and president of Vensa, the leading provider of data protection and regulatory compliance solutions for the hospitality industry. Josh brings a wealth of knowledge and innovation and leadership to our conversation. He's also a 17-year-old member of the hospitality, financial, and technology professions, holds certifications in certified hospitality accounting executive. So, welcome, Josh. Michael. Welcome.
Hello, hello. I'm very glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you. And so, I understand under your leadership, Cybertech has transformed from a local company and focusing on IT providers into a national powerhouse. So, I've said something about you, a lot about you, but Michael, so why don't you just tell us about you?
Okay. Well, I'd
And
like to.
let me correct that.
Go ahead.
It's
Okay.
Joshua, not Michael, but Joshua.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
there you go.
Right. When I people ask about my history, I do like to tell them I've worked in hospitality my entire life in some fashion, except for 51 weeks. I worked directly in the cable industry and quickly came back to hospitality. So whether it's been in hotel operations, anywhere from making beds and housekeeping and cleaning toilets and moving up to taking care of guests to working in the finance world or IT world or operation world. I really love the hospitality space and taking care of our customers and our employees. So it's kind of in my blood. Although I do like to bring the hospitality to the other industries that I work with, because CyberTech is not just hospitality focused, but bringing that the heart of hospitality to everything we do, you can never go wrong. So I've loved it. My family loves it. Everybody I'm around, we're very hospitable. So I'm glad to
Well,
be here and glad to share some knowledge with everyone.
Well, we're glad to have you here. And for tonight, Josh is here to share insights on reducing owner care escalations through tech-supported empowerment. And it's clearly, as you articulated, you've started from the bottom up, and you're someone who knows the east, west, north, south in depth about hotel operations. So in this session, we'll explore that digital knowledge bases, that cross-training tools, empowering platforms, and things like that revolution owners care operation, reducing service escalations, and enhancing both the guest and employee experience. And I like that, both the guest and the employee experience, because often we forget about those important employees. So why don't you let's go with a couple of questions, and feel free for those who are listening and joining on us, if there's a place for you to put a question or two in the chat, we will certainly try to get them over to him. And so let's start with the first question. Can you explain the concept of what we call owner care escalations in this hospitality industry and why it's a critical issue?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things, first, I want to say I was very blessed to work with a couple of large uh, hospitality leaders, such as Wyndham and Starwood, and working for one of I say, the best private equity golf clubs in America, Ocean Reef Club, and the cruise line. So, getting a chance to work across the different verticals, I've found that when we're engaging with millions and millions and millions of people every year, that all the businesses have to find that path for any of the escalations. And one of my can't say one of my favorite groups, or the other groups might be mad, but at Wyndham, one of my favorite groups was the owner care team. And seeing this as one of your topics, I thought, how better to showcase what an amazing job they've done, especially in the timeshare industry that originally has had a bad taste from a marketing perspective or a service
Mhm.
perspective. But seeing the way Wyndham, getting a chance to learn from the best of the best, they really put together an amazing team about owner care, and that was how to handle any issues. So they had coined it in their owner care, and it was an escalation tool where any of the issues were coming in, so the people could really dedicate their time to listen to what the issues were and to help resolve them, so they could really focus on the product, which is enjoying an amazing vacation at a beautiful product, right? Which is a resort
Mhm.
somewhere, who knows where across the world. So that's kind of where I was born into that arena. Although my background, being in accounting and such, but hearing about the service side of it, we have to offer solutions that can help elevate and de-escalate any escalations, elevate the service and de-escalate the escalation issues.
So you've mentioned that you worked with Wyndham, and have you worked with any other of the chains? So, for example, Ritz Carlton, they famed themselves on service in every aspect of their business operation.
Yep.
Have you
So
worked with?
one of the things that I thought was amazing with one of the leaders, again, giving kudos to the executive team there, is they brought in other executives, leaders, and we worked together across. So, as an example, we got a chance to work with Zappos. That's
Hmm.
not a hotel, but getting a chance to work with Zappos executives back before they were acquired, and seeing their culture, how their employees worked. They were very big into technology and the distribution channels. Like we all know Amazon now, but their culture and attitude and the way to deliver service and how to take care of the customers when it comes to return items or
Hmm.
things that weren't right. We also had a chance to work with Southwest Airlines.
Hmm.
So Southwest
Interesting.
Airlines, known for their service, their culture, right? You see a trend. We worked with also some executives from places like Starbucks, and even had our executive team get some training through the Chick-fil-A environment. So when you bring together high volume brands that focus on care, you get to learn across these groups, despite what the end product is, whether you're flying someone around, serving them a coffee, or selling them a new pair of shoes. It's really about how do you service and support your customers, and how do you
Hmm.
engage when something goes wrong, because the world's not perfect. You're going to have problems, but
Right.
what's your plan? right? It's what's your disaster recovery plan, but for the human problem or the
Right.
product.
And really the continuity plan of it, right?
Right,
The resiliency of bringing things forward on a continuous basis, and also the resiliency also leads to sustainability that results in customer loyalty, right? And
right,
bringing in repeat customers who will always want to identify because of the service, whether it be across the people, the processes that they experience, the food, just the whole package deal. So, and all of that, let me just ask this question. So, how do you think digital knowledge bases is contributing to this, to reducing the care escalation in terms of that
right, right.
and
Without giving
digitalization?
away the secret sauces, right, from anywhere I've worked, I will. I do have a favorite though. That coming into one of the areas, I'll leave which nameless. Um, it was very apparent that we weren't doing a good job at what's called first call resolution. So basically,
Mm,
when an issue came in, it had to be escalated to many different people or many different departments. And you've called in to get something. Every person has. And it's very aggravating when you're 20 minutes in and then you get transferred to another person and then you got to start over and then start over. So the reason
mm,
why I bring this one example up, and for anybody that watches this video, I know you are involved with it if you know this story. But in between the time of trying to move from a current what we deemed as a broken process, we had an interim thing, and going through all of the issues, and this is not a joke, and this was in the recent 10-15 years, we printed out on cardboard a thing that got attached to your monitor and wrapped around it with the most common issues or help or resolution items that we were able to dig through the issues and come up with the most common themes. Like in IT world, most common one is password reset. So um, in that environment, though, it was very weird to be on a technology team that the first phase, though, was to literally print out a square cardboard cutout. That's a
wow.
technology solution to Velcro around your computer monitor. This wasn't in like the 1980s. This was not that long ago. And that was the solution. So when it had to change, we had to replace the cardboard wraparound, if you could imagine.
Mm,
But that bought us the time we needed to build that we named our project KIM. It was a knowledge information management solution, which gave everybody the database and the tools and the searching functionality to get those answers to the masses instead of to the minority, which would be the escalated groups. So we we're trying to get the information to everybody versus having it only tiered approach. So
mm.
I think that's the truest definition of a technology transformation, to go from a cardboard wraparound to your own internal search engine of awesomeness. So,
Well, and as everyone would say, things get better in time, like a bottle of
right.
wine, right? And so, and this is certainly how you approach the customer and how you get to know them, with digitalization and with technology. So, which goes into the next question. So, I'm going to hand it over to Amana, and then why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, sure. I have a question. I would like to know what role do cross training tools play in addressing owner care issues and improving service efficiency? Can you speak
Okay.
a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when you're as you grow your businesses and get that volume, cross training in any position is going to be key, but especially with addressing issues. Often we were able to use the people who were there, had the longest tenure or had the most knowledge, and tried to get that knowledge into these databases. In addition to that, the people who have that same thing, right? You got to have book smarts and you got to have street smarts. So the people who've been there and who have learned, they would come back and train the new batch coming in. So that was one of the most important things, is getting that teach back circle. And as a supervisor, they would cross train across different departments, just like the issue I explained earlier, where you had to be transferred from department to department to department to resolve something, as just happened with my cell phone provider. Instead, they would have those departments cross training with each other. There's a limit, right? There's a human limit. But if you could now cross train three or four or five different skill sets, now that customer doesn't have to be bounced around.
Mm,
And cross training, in my opinion, was one of the most valuable things. And to add the extra flavor, cross training, letting the employees, the ones who know, letting them do it more so than some executive coming in and, trying to teach everyone. The people on the ground and the ones who had the interactions, they were the ones that were always the best at cross training across departments or products or what we call queues, different lines of service. And I think cross training was fundamental.
absolutely.
Thank you for that. It makes a lot of
Why don't you
sense.
take, why don't you take the next question?
I actually also would like to know, how can digital knowledge bases help in preventing the common mistakes that lead to these escalations? So prior to that, can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think one of the most interesting things is this will be ironic for what I don't know, is the way AI is going to play into it,
Mm,
where things have shifted so much in the AI arena that we've always had to manually look for trends or most common reoccurring issues. So what we had to do for my whole life, including my cybertech role here, we look for those common themed issues, but we rely on the humans who take the notes, right? So we
mm,
type notes into a system, we use drop downs to create categories in a system. And now we're putting these all into the system so we can sort it, digest it, and figure out how to summarize it. And then once you have it, you have choices on what to do with this data. You can go to the front end user. In our world, in the IT world, we can go back to those companies and say, "Hey, we've seen a trend that this issue is across multiple hotels. Can we train your staff better, or give them a different process to help prevent the issue from coming in?" Or you could build systems around it. You find a broken thing that then you can deploy a new technology, like technology only a couple years ago was a self-service password reset. That's technically a new technology. Where 10 years ago, you always had to contact the company, get all this extra help. But when people evaluated the common theme of this issue, then you get the engineers and the software developers to come in and create an automated solution or semi-automated. Imagine 5 years from now where we went from manual to semi-automated to AI predicting. You're on your fourth login. Girl, you need a lot of help. I'm just going to go ahead and send you your password reset because I know what's coming and this is what you need to do. And it just sends you the resolution and you can handle it. Now you're doing your own ticket, or what I call, sorry, you're solving your own problem now.
Hmm.
AI knew your problem was coming. So I think it's going to be a very interesting world 5 years from now.
Wow, that's very. I almost want to say scary, but also exciting at the same time.
yeah, one of the things is that artificial intelligence where we are, and as we go more with adoption and incorporating into our processes, we're going to find yes, they're going to demand. Matter of fact, it won't be optional. They're going to assume that you're using that on the back end, that you know a lot about them before they get there. So you shouldn't be asking them questions. You should be able to be, yeah, be educated enough of the individual standing before you. You know things about them that already, and you have a relationship. What do you think about that?
Yep. I think that the companies are going to have to balance that. And I guess we'll find out after this interview whether people love it or hate it. But one of the things we changed also, even at our own company today, is getting rid of that annoying call queue. Um, Press option one for this, two for this, and then you get to the next
Mm,
one and it's option three for that, and then the next one.
Mhm.
You're 5 to 10 minutes trying to figure out how to route your own call,
yeah.
where people say, "I want automatic resolution. So we're just cutting that out and just talk to a person, where at the same time we're being challenged as an industry
Hmm.
and pressured because of costs and other things to don't talk to a person, go through this voice activated queue, or go to eventually again AI again. So we're trying to balance as a company. We don't want to fall behind in an AI solution environment or a self-service environment, but we also don't want to get rid of the human touch, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, when a hotel is having a technical issue and there's a guest in front of them, they don't have time to self-service and play around and go figure it out. But because
Hmm.
we're not quite there yet, you're kind of in between. They just want a human to pick up the phone, say they'll take care of them, and help them fix it. Right?
And it's not just with hotels. I mean,
Yeah, it's everything.
I just literally in the 24 hours, I have had a nightmare with a certain hospital, you know, and I had to go through to get to somebody to tell me where this person's room is. I even tried to get somebody to tell me to connect me to the ER department. And it just going through menus on top of menus before you can figure it out that, oh, you should press this. And so the next time, repetitively, okay, I need to press four. Otherwise, I got to listen to a person for a long period of time. So cutting that out with an AI model on the back end, if you say, oh, what's, hey, we have, da da da, and if what's the patient's name? They should be able to give you, where that individual or everything. Would you like to speak to such and such as you? And the back end, they would know that this person's in the ER, right? They know whether they're tracking them. Would you like to speak to, if they've been moved to a certain floor, like to speak? And they would give you the options, as opposed to me trying to figure and doing self-service and figure out how do I drill down to get to what I really want to get to a person.
Right.
So that's something that where this to me is beneficial. So let me ask you this question. Can you give us some example of some real world scenarios where the technologies have helped reduce it?
Absolutely. I will say in my current role and some of my former roles, they mirror each other. Although maybe the technology has changed, the philosophy is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the real world examples is reviewing the reasons why people call in or email in or show up. Obviously, if someone shows up to a hotel, it's because they want to check in. If they show up to a restaurant, they want to eat dinner. That's not what we're looking into. um, we're looking into these issues, and I would say both of them, the way we've been able to reduce escalations is through data. So although I'm now technically at a smaller company, but at our larger company, we're still deploying the same ideas to reduce escalation with technology, and the number one way is analytics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only as good as the people or the system tracking what the activities are. So important things about reducing escalations is, as in your example, Michael, that if you've called in to our center 17 times and
Mm-hmm.
Amma's only called in once, our system should know the difference between the two guests or customers that are calling in. Also, if you've called in 17 times, and we should know what the issues are. Is it just because of your role? Because you're the center point of being the one who has to go handle the problem, or is it
Mm-hmm.
because you've had 17 issues and it's not going away? So the whole thing about reducing real world escalations and things that we do today, right now, we review our tickets, our issues, the types of complaints. It could be regional. Like, think of storms. We can get a whole bunch of issues coming in, and to reduce the issues, to reduce the escalations, one of the major things is doing outbound communication to prepare somebody for an event that's going to happen, or prepare you when Microsoft, I'm sorry, I look around to make sure Mr. Gates isn't listening to me, but when you're ready to roll out a change, sometimes we need a lot of warning, because when you do an update or a security patch, it breaks other things. So
Mm-hmm.
we can be prepared to reduce escalations before they even start with good communication. So you can prevent a problem often as easy as you can to fix a problem.
And you've covered that number. The next question that was in the queue here.
Oh,
How do these tools improve communications between owners and staff in high stress situations?
yeah.
And from a customer's perspective, calling in. But what about in house? And that goes in hand what we were talking about earlier, improving the employee experience. So between owners and staff in a high stress situation, how do you think the tools improve communications?
I think in an escalation situation, often and sadly but true, there's blame, a lot of blame. And I think using the data and using our techniques to help reduce the stress, or like I said, communicating to be prepared for a situation, um, that is going to be a key thing as we grow. The human touch is still going to be really important, and that can help do that. But then we got to think of our staff, especially in the highest of escalation cases. In the world of any complaint department, think of the employees. We're all humans, so communicating with the employees, having one-on-ones with employees. We used to do case reviews where we could review the situation and give guidance like, hey, you handled it this way, but if you would have maybe said this or this, you could have
Mm,
de escalated the problem. Or from a technical point of view, did you know we have this resource here or here? You didn't use those resources, so it created your stress because you didn't know how to solve it, and it created more stress for the customer. And because of lack of education or lack of communication, maybe you missed that meeting. So constantly reviewing your tools, constantly reviewing how you communicate with your employees um, is going to be an ongoing thing. It'll never be done because I've been in this world, doing this thing for 30 plus years, and it's incremental improvements, right? Like we'll never be
mhm.
perfect, but whatever we do next year will be better than what we did last year, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amon, over to you.
That was very insightful, and I really love what CyberTek is doing. One thing that you mentioned was always having that human touch, which is important to people as much as we're making a lot of advances in the tech space. I see that people want to get their solutions as quickly as possible, but at the same time they kind of like don't want to feel dismissed in the process. So
Mm.
I really love that you touched on that. I would like to ask that in your experience, what is the impact of a well-designed empowerment platform on the overall guest experience? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. Throughout this interview, I might be giving some shout outs to specific people that have helped me learn. And I'm going to give a shout out to my current CIO, Mr. David Neal, because I joke with people that, CyberTek is only a 4-year-old company, but with 30 years experience because of an acquisition. And Mr. Neal was running the company that we acquired. That leads into what you said by about having a well-designed empowerment platform. So his focus is on the tools and the vendors and the things we use for the engineers to get their job done. But most importantly is the empowerment. And one of the things that I've touted to everyone who ever meets him, if they've never have, is his ability to educate and empower his people. He's been running his own business, and now he's helping us run ours. But having that system that we use, which is our knowledge base, and our ticketing system and the training that goes around with it, they're engaged, not like once a month, some boring training you have to do. Sorry, HR people, that you're forced to do through HR. It's different when you're doing training about the tools and things you're excited to learn about, right? Just like you're in school, you're excited. If you like math, you're excited to go to your math class. If you hate science, you're sad to go to science class. So he's designed um, the education portion of it, and through education, the biggest thing is the employees feel empowered. Knowledge is power. They feel that they can resolve it. They feel comfortable that they can handle it and fix it. So I say we're not perfect, but the more we can focus on, like your question said, the well designed platform, that is our knowledge base. That is our ticketing system. And our vendor, who we use this system through, they are a key partner. So we
Mhm.
also have to have a real important feedback loop, not just between our leader, who kind of runs the show there, and our employees, but also between him being our pinpoint and the relationship with the vendor, because we're using someone else's technology often. Some companies have their own software, their own platforms. But in our world and in most of our competitors, we're relying on a
Mhm.
platform that's very similar across the board. So having that platform is half of the battle, but having the feedback circle between the employees and the customers, and then the employees and the vendor, the tool provider, we give them feedback. I wish my tool could do this. I need my report to say that. My dashboard for my customer is missing this. And the
Mhm.
vendors are the ones that are supplying us the technology so we can deliver better service. So
So
that's
with
a
that said, though, let's how do you measure that success of these technologies and reducing and improving the satisfaction rate?
so
Once you get that information from the vendors, etc., and the reporting aspect, you measure that.
right. Well, one of the things that always makes me nervous is putting dashboards together. I've done them my whole life, and in the tech world especially, saying the best successes are being measured in the quantity of time it takes to resolve an issue, right? Shorter
Hmm.
is is presumed to be better. I'm cautious with what I'm going to tell you here. The other one is to have a less quantity, right? Because then the assumption would be I have less issues, right? Shorter time, less issues. Those are the measures. And then I go, but it's knowing why is it shorter? If it's shorter because your employees or the customer is giving up on it, that's not a win. It's
Hmm.
shorter and they're not calling in to get the help because they don't want to talk to the tech team and they're going somewhere else to resolve their issues. That's not a win, right? And you gotta look at from our shoes too. CyberTek, we're a third party support group. We are a co-manager. So if the customers aren't using us for support, we can be kicked out as a customer vendor relationship, and they could go use another vendor. So the dashboard is still correct on less tickets, shorter time for resolution, but we got to make sure it's for the right reason, right? Because we're doing a better job, or because new systems are rolled out, or because we've designed first call resolution.
Hmm.
It's also a symbol or a sign um, of a problem if it drops too fast or tickets go away. So it could be both ways. You gotta understand what you're looking at and why. And the reason why did the number change? I'll give you this one thing. I used to joke with my finance team about this is accounting, budgets, variances. I used to say if you're way under the budget for the month, you might be wrong and you need to know why. If you're way over your budget on the item, even if it's a good thing like revenue, I'm over budget, yay. But it might be wrong. What was wrong? Was your forecast wrong? Was your budget wrong? And they're like, wait a minute. So if I'm under, it might be wrong. And if I'm over, it might be wrong. And I'm like, yeah. And if you hit it exactly on, then you're really wrong. And they were like, wait a minute, I can't win here at all. And I'm like, well, it's not about whether you're over or under or right on. It's are you one of those measures, but you know why. If you know why, then you can defend over, under, or spot on. So you got to know.
So
You got to.
therefore,
The dashboard
you're able
tells
to
you.
reduce the escalation and
Yeah,
improve the satisfaction rate
absolutely.
dramatically, right? So,
Mhm.
well, let me, for the sake of time, and as we tiptoe to the tulips about questions, what are some of the challenges in implementing these technologies in the organization? I mean, over the last 3 years, it's really as it's come out of the pandemic, it's really about improving that customer satisfaction, really trying to get people as we come from that remote environment, making the employee experience far more better through communication, through enhanced technology communications and tools to do their job better. So, what are some of the challenges in implementing these technologies in an organization, and how can they be overcome?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges I think that starts the problems is money, 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 money.
Money.
Where do I
Hmm.
get the money to implement this, or how can I afford to
Hmm.
implement that? And I used to say it, again, not referencing somewhere specific, but in my former roles, having that accounting background, um, getting to be the voice of IT to help give them solutions to overcome their budget problems. So if they need to go spend a $500,000 or $1 million, they're looked at as a overhead cost because it's IT. Oh, we can't
Right.
spend on that investment. But you asked the question, how do you overcome it? Number one is tying your capital investment or your cost into some sort of ROI. So an ROI could be
Mm.
tied to an increase in customer satisfaction, meaning I'm clearing the queue faster at the front desk because I've implemented this technology you guys just approved me for, right? Or um, I've deployed this new technology. I'll give a
Hmm.
shout out to Toast, Toast point of sale
Yes.
systems that I've became familiar with. Let me tell you what, they are probably the kings of upgrades because I'm at the restaurant and these self service things. And did you want this? Do you want to add that? Do you want to add that? 5 minutes later, you have $100 bill and you're like, what just happened? But that's technology ROI. So, right, it's hard to
Right.
say, by the way, I want to change out my entire point of sale system. Give me $1 million. Well, Mr. IT, you're going to have to work with your ops people, salespeople to say, what's the ROI on it? Um, and some of it, this is the hardest one. This is the absolute, in my opinion. That's why I'm on the show, right? It's just for my opinions. Other people have other opinions. My hardest one to overcome when it comes to the money side is the risk aversion
Mm.
or the cost avoidance. So sometimes you'll deploy a technology that might cost you money, and what you're trying to explain to the ownership or the shareholders or the executives, well, I want to deploy this because it'll help prevent a lawsuit later, or it'll help prevent, an intrusion or a hack where you could, get your data stolen, or right. So you're trying to deploy costs that really what you're trying to do is prove you can avoid hiring another staff member because I'm giving you this new efficiency solution. So avoiding legal costs and lowering risk, or avoiding staff hiring. Those are the harder ones to sell because the company currently isn't spending a money on a legal case, and you're trying to convince them, well, if you do this, then you won't get caught later with a problem. So those are some of the things that we look at to overcome, but those are also the things we present as an example, right? So
Hmm.
I'm deploying this, multi-factor authentication. People didn't want to deploy it. It's annoying.
It's
Two
still
years
struggling
ago,
with it now.
yeah, everyone hates it, and I
I
tell
do.
people that level of security is not made to be convenient. Security is not made to be convenient. So the people who have chosen to not deploy it, and we have real life examples, trust me, in my world, that chose to not deploy it, and they absolutely got burned, and it was one of the items that could have prevented it. Ask me the same question 3 years from now, I have no idea. But that's why we go to the education sessions. That's why we listen to shows like
Hmm.
yours. I'm going to listen to shows like yours because I'm going to go, I want to hear what other people are sharing on shows like this because this is how I learn. This is how my team learns. My CIO is at a summit all next week learning about new technologies. So, we got to implement the technologies. We have to come up with ways to overcome the change. That's the other thing. People don't like change. So having more people buy in on the solution, or be a part of the decision making. Sometimes it's too many people, but just making a sole decision and throwing it in there, it doesn't get the buy-in you need. And those are the challenges that people have to overcome every day, I think.
And and one of the things is you either pay now or you will pay later. And also, in terms of the budgeting issue that you alluded to and how they structure and how they pay for things, in the old days it was, everything's been capitalized, but now we're in an OpEx type of environment for, the cost. And this is where we have to quantify the risk. So, when you talk about return on investment, by doing this, we're able to reduce this. By doing this, we save the company this. This is the message that you need to be talking to justify from whether it's a new security tool, a new enhancement for defense mechanism for, whether for security or for from the operations at the firewall level, da 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 da. So, yeah, the struggle. It has been real for a lot of hotel chains to adjust to changing times as we turn to or depend upon or incorporate into the processes of hotel operations, you know, the platform computer technologies and SaaS as a service and everything as a service. So let's talk about this, and I'm going to just switch gears here, and talk about CyberTech's role in vision. All right, and let's dive into that. CyberTech, it says, it has grown from a local IT provider, and now look at you, your national presence. You're in Florida, and you've made some strides. You've made some acquisitions along the way, and now you've grown as a national company. So how has the technology played a role in this transformation?
I would say that when I originally joined this shareholder group, it was with a company called Venza, and
Hmm.
Venza's more focused on PCI compliance and auditing and things like that. And they were international, so not just national, but across
Hmm.
many different countries. And when our customers were asking for that technology support, we decided to create our own help desk pretty much internally to help our customers. But to go to your question is, well, how did we go from that and having a local presence? So the irony is the Venza group had the more international, more US, all over the US presence, but through the acquisition was more local presence, but they had the technology vendors access and relationships. That's the
Mm.
Mr. Neil that I'd mentioned. That the only way we could grow is to have a platform or platforms to stand on. And because
Mm.
he had the 20, 30 years of experience there, and Venza had the 20 years experience of these customers and hospitality all over the globe, it was the marrying of two families together. So our customers now had access to a really, really strong foundation. And I say it's a lot to do with that vendor management. So we have certain tools or softwares or processes through our vendors. So we love our vendors, and our vendors listening, we love you. Um, we love our vendors because they've helped us make it be an international brand,
Mm.
not even just national, and um, because they are much bigger than us, they have a large footprint that we're now allowed to stand on. So thanks to our vendors, we've now can service, I don't say everywhere, but almost anywhere in the globe where it's legal. So thanks to the government. There's some places we can't service, but we're able to now have a much broader reach because our vendors have that worldwide reach. And
Hmm.
they've given it to us, which lets us share it with our customers. So it's
So
something the
really,
customer
it's a management.
without it.
Your third parties together with your supply chain management, and really the supply chain has enhanced your presence. Correct? Would you say your strategic partners?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh,
Every day I thank
excellent,
them for their their strength lets us be stronger, and they actually come to our trade shows. They send
excellent.
corporate people from the vendor world that supports us to our shows because that way it is that meeting of the minds when you go to a sales group or a trade show. One of my favorites, little plug HFTP for their high tech trade show. Um,
Hmm.
that's bringing all of these resources together so people can share knowledge, get education, and have access to worldwide vendors. So,
And as you get out now, I mean, for example, over the last, I'm going to say, in the midst of the pandemic, prior to that, I would say that could you agree that the hotel chains were a little bit reluctant and slow in implementing technology. And how do you think? What do you think about that? And now, fast forward to where we are today. Is it because due to the customer experience, the need to the adjustment and the change of attitudes of the customer, as well as the needs of the employees have changed? that fast rate of investment now has to happen. How do you feel about that, and how has that helped your company?
Well, although this recording will go out to the world, sadly, the more IT issues, the more hacks, the more data breaches that happen, and you see them on the news every week or every month. The more the issues happen, and less people say it won't happen to us, the more type of business we are there to help. You have to be able to block and defend,
Hmm.
but you can't say it'll never happen now. Where before, maybe people thought they were too small, so I won't be hacked. Well, that's not true anymore. Big, small, and middle. I don't care what industry you're in. You could be selling flowers on the side of the highway. If you do it electronically, they're coming after your money somehow. So, because of that environment, industries are now investing more in technology security than ever. There's so much data that shows those who do invest in it down the risk. They lower, if they do have a breach or an issue, it helps lower your fees and fines. I don't know if a lot of people know
Hmm.
that. If you deploy certain technologies, anybody listening to this show, go check your ransomware insurance or your cybersecurity insurance policy. Somewhere in there, it'll tell you if you deploy these 15 or 20 processes, your premium is lower and you'll be less likely to have your claim denied. So now
Hmm.
businesses are almost deploying cybersecurity the same way you would do insurance because they know that if they do these things, it'll lower their likelihood of having a breach. It'll lower, you've seen it when a brand gets hit, how it impacts the shareholders, the customers get nervous, they don't want to come stay. Um, Poor Chili's had a breach a while ago, and I'm getting the alerts on my phone, and my daughter and I are there
Hmm.
for dinner. I paid with cash that night because I didn't know. Wait, is it live? Is it an active one? Was it an old one? I didn't even want to pay with a credit card that night. And think of where I work. That made me nervous. So it impacts your brand. And I know that the leaders of companies are now looking at it going, you almost have to brag about your security posture the same now that you brag about customer service. Like it's the same level. My rooms are clean. My service is awesome, and I'm keeping you secure. Has now become part of the conversation about, the Westin Heavenly beds. Love them, and your data
Hmm.
secure when you check in. 10 years ago, nobody gave a crap. I just want a soft, amazing bed to sleep in and an awesome pillow. Right? Plug for Westin, but nobody cared. Now everybody cares.
Well, I mean, I've cared a long time ago. I'm very picky where I stay and
Right?
how it. I mean, my room has got to be A1. You're paying for it, and that's the difference between me coming back to another hotel chain and my loyalty to such. Is how they address the finer things and the little things, and the little things count. And then we've become a society where they do, and in some instances, but in order for you to be that A1, that hotel of choice, you really got to pay attention to that, to the little one. So let me ask you this: you've come a long way. You've grown up in this company. You've mentioned that you started out at the bottom and worked your way up. So can you share some of the key takeaways from your transition from, then you were president of Venza, as you indicated, that you were that company then had international presence, and now to the CEO of CyberTek in terms of tech implementation, etc. Can you kind of give us some insight into that?
Absolutely. So this is a perfect segue into the reality of the day to day of my life, literally. Um, as my role has evolved here at Venza, I came in marketing. It wasn't even in accounting or IT. It was in a marketing role. Um, but I think the biggest takeaway about the transition is, and I've said this to all the students when I go talk at the Rosen College of Hospitality, that's where I
Mm-hmm.
graduated from, um, that you have to be able to accept the challenge and you have to take the risks. So moving into the president role of Venza, right, was very similar to a president type of role, maybe like at Wyndham or in some other places, where basically it's you have a lot of different leaders that report up to you. And I would say that transitioning from being the president of Venza, you have different areas of functions that report to you. When you go into the CEO role, it's pretty much all of the functions, right? Often even like the COO. We're a very small company, so we're throwing around titles, right? I would jokingly say, a CEO, my CEO role here is not like the CEO of Marriott. We have very
Mm,
different roles, right? Marriott's a little bit bigger, especially with the acquisitions, but the overarching theory is the same. And when it comes to technology implementations, I would say one of my most important roles of being CEO, and I have this conversation with my two different IT leaders, one at Venza and one at um, CyberTek. Their background is IT. Their education is IT. Their certifications is IT.
mm,
So mine is not. So I think the biggest part of my role being a CEO at CyberTek is getting the right leaders in the role of where they're experts. And I think that I've been successful over the growth of my career. Most of it is because of the team we've created around a center point of a goal. So
mm,
obviously, in the CEO role, it's different than my old role, even when I was a finance leader, back at Starwood. But whatever your pinpoint of your role is, the success of the leader is the team around it achieving the goals that you're trying to do. So now transitioning from a president role to a CEO role, you have all these different departments or compartments. HR is in one, you got IT in another, you have operations in another, you have sales in one, you have marketing one. And when you're a smaller company, um, people wear what we call many hats, right? So one person might be doing what might be three or four different jobs. At a bigger company, the bigger you go, the more they separate it out for expertise. Um, so deploying technology at my company, I'm proud to say I don't make those all those decisions. I look at my IT leader. He's going to have to help me decide. I'm going to be involved maybe with the contract and the pricing and the what is the best move and what is our customer saying. But I really rely on those experts to give me that information because that's what they're good at. So to me, in terms of tech implementation, all day, every day, and every job, I go to the tech smart people and I ask them for advice. I don't just mandate something. I need them to help me grow the company and make the right decisions in their specialty.
So now, Joshua, you mentioned, as you just mentioned, actually, your amazing team. You also talked about your vendors and who you have a good relationship with, and some of your tools and platforms. So can you share with us some of the specific tools and platforms that CyberTech uses to reduce these escalations?
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to do a quick rundown of what we've jokingly called the Fab Five. So we have five core vendors that we've really hitched our wagon with. Now, mind you, we use many others, but this foundation we're building on currently, and it's called the tech stack, it shifts though. So I've only been with the group for 4 or 5 years tops, and we've shifted a little, but currently, today, because you're asking, if you call me back a year from now, who knows? But right now, we use a lot of our technologies through a group called Kaseya. They're also corporate offices in Miami, unrelated to me being in Florida. It's not why we picked them, but they're a very large organization, and we've benefited by their growth because they've acquired other tools and services, of which some we were already using before they acquired, like some of our scanning tools, like Vanahai and such. But we at CyberTech have not created our own technologies. So because of that, the thing that makes us stand out different is our service. But we service like Kaseya, one of our major players in our firewalls. We service multiple firewall brands, but what has come out over the last couple of years is Fortinet has seemed to be our front runner. So there's a brand called Fortinet, which we could do a whole hour show on any of these vendors, doing showing all their toys and things. We also have really leaned in with one of our backup vendors because they have saved the day a million times, and it's our job to take care of our customers. And that vendor for backups is called Acronis. We also deploy multiple other backup solutions through our friends like at Kaseya or wherever else, but really leaned in on this vendor a lot. And team loves them. So then, therefore, also our customers love them. And through our Microsoft relationship, we don't deal directly with Microsoft. Most companies don't. They have an intermediary, and ours right now is called OpenText. So a little plug for them. Um, we also have some major up and comers in the world. Like even the platform I use for my HR system, I don't resell it. I don't use it for my vendors, but we use a software called Hierology. And when we first met them, we wanted to see how their technology was deployed and how secure that company is. And they were like top notch. Now we use them for our own HR platform when it comes for recruiting and job postings and things like that. And then another one was called Threat Spike. We needed assistance with a very specific thing, and they were a European based security tool vendor, but their service is top notch. They work with our customers hands down, probably one of the best out of all of our vendors when it comes to building the relationship with our customers, joint customers. And we've grown with them, I don't even know, tenfold over the last 3 years. So I really believe in our vendors, and those relationships have been the most important to our successes, I think.
Okay, how do you ensure that these two? I mean, you mentioned some great traits about all of them. How do you ensure that they meet the, I guess, like the your unique needs and the quality that you're looking for the hospitality industry?
Yeah, I would say that, sorry for all my hotel friends, but in the hospitality world, it's crazy. In some of our commercial clients or some of our like .gov places, it's more uniform. So I feel like because we've been able to prepare and support hospitality. So basically, if you're prepared to go to battle in the worst case scenario, working with the other industries makes everything so much more calm in comparison. Um, and we do have to tailor it to our different hospitality groups because each one's has different needs. Now, there's a fine point though, where if you do every single thing specialized, then you do not get the efficiencies of uniformity. So we are trying to always balance that out between having 100 different flavors, or and some of them will start becoming very weird and gross, like if you think of ice cream. Um, but if you can have 10 really good ones, that's the key. So it is trying to find the balance between what does our customer need, but also keep us a little more in the box so what we're delivering, or you become too watered down and you can't deliver anything excellent. You deliver 5 things good and 10 things poorly, and we don't want that. The things on the fringes is what I call it. If we can't service more together or more full service, it will just become a reseller versus the value added. The MSSP, the M is managed security service provider. If we can't do the M part of our title, like part of our name of the company, if we can't help manage the solutions with them, eventually becomes a partnership that doesn't work. If we're just selling tools to them, well, they can go online and buy the tools themselves. So then they don't need people like us, which we have the value added, which is our human factor.
Thank you for that. We are actually coming to a close. I just want to ask a final question, two things. The first is, what advice would you give professionals that are looking to innovate and implement technology in the hospitality sector to improve their operational efficiency and guest satisfaction? And then after that, if you can just also let our viewers know, how they can reach out to you, contact you, get more information if you can. And I think we'll go ahead and end there.
All right. Well, I think the biggest thing that everybody can do, and I've said this same advice to my children because I had received this advice, is try to learn from people that know more than you, or translated from my kids and other students that I've worked with. As I say, hang out with people that are the next level. So I think going to trade shows, if you're in hospitality specifically, there's tons of them. HFTP hosts all sorts of different shows, the CIO Summit, High Tech, HFTP Annual Conference. You could go to also flip to another one called AHLA, the American Hotel Lodging Association. You could go to BITEC. You could go to any of these different tech shows. I always say when I started there, I started in the student chapter. So my advice to anybody listening, and I don't care what level you are, people look at me, oh, you're CEO, well, yeah, but I'm going to go to these conferences and I'm going to go learn something. So I don't care what level you're at, there's always somebody who knows something more or different. You got to keep going to learn. You'll be left behind. It's the biggest and most important thing. And who you surround yourself with is people that need to boost you up and not just beat you up. So or bring you down. You gotta boost yourself up, whatever that means. Family, friends, industry people. So if you don't have one, go get the other. So if your family is not right, then go join an association, go join a group, and elevate your learning all the time. You never know it all, and I think everyone needs to know that. So
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. You are a wealth of knowledge and so humble at the same time. We want to thank you for joining us. Myself and Michael, we thank you. And we want to thank our viewers also for joining us as well. This is the Hospitality Tech Show, and we hope that. You will join us and we'll see you at the next one. Any final words that you have?
I would say connect with me on LinkedIn. Joshua Bergen with the number one at the end of it, or just search for me, Joshua Bergen, or look for CyberTek, um, and just stay in touch. That's my big thing. Connect with people in the industry and keep talking. That's the most important thing.
Thank you,
Great.
Josh.
Thank you so much.
It
Thank
gets
you all. Glad to be here.